Welcome to MUFON Midwest, where we discuss some of the most interesting UFO, UAP sightings in the heartland. MUFON field investigators and eyewitnesses share their amazing experiences with the public on this podcast. And now, here's your host for MUFON Midwest, Margie K.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to MUFON Midwest. I'm your host, Margie K. And this evening we have a really good show for you. If you have any comments or questions, just put them in the chat and we will pop them up here. My guest tonight is Sam Maranto. He's an investigative researcher and ufologist, most known for his work in the Tinley Park Mass Sightings of 2004, also the Chicago O'Hare Gate incident of 2006, plus the Chicago Mothman sightings in recent years. These cases have been featured in several television programs such as the History Channel's UFO Hunters episodes, Invasion Illinois and Aliens at the Airport, and Dateline NBC's 10 Best UFO Encounters, which was a major television network special that featured the UFO footage from the Tinley Park Mass Sightings, along with other well-noted documented accounts. Sam is a MUFON certified field investigator. He's the Illinois State Director. He's on the MUFON photo analysis team and the Great Lakes Regional Director. He had his first encounter in 1959 and gave his first presentation on the subject in 1967. Welcome to the program, Sam.
Well, it's an absolute pleasure to be there and get a chance to talk to a friend that I haven't been able to chat with in quite some time. And no better a place than being on this fantastic show of yours.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're a busy guy. Illinois seems to be a UFO hotspot. Do you have any idea why?
You know, it is funny because we've had so many great cases, especially mass sighting cases, which you are aware of. One mass sighting case that most people don't know about is the Rockford case that took place actually on New Year's Eve, 1999, going into 2000. And that case in Rockford wasn't just isolated in Rockford. It was also seen in the border area of Wisconsin, all the way into the Quad Cities. If I am not mistaken, there were also sightings in the area of the Island of Man. So there were many sightings, and we're talking not just a few people, we're talking hundreds, if not thousands of people during this period of time. And of course, this came right before the mass sighting, and I think it was a mass sighting by the number of people that we have so far that we could tell have seen it. The sightings of the police officers down in Millstadt, Dupo, by Scotts Air Force Base, and you know intimately going into Missouri, and spoke to one of the witnesses, very interesting gentleman, and we both had a chance to talk to him. And I think that was one great case. And it is multiple objects, not just one object. And that seems to be the same case in point that took place in Rockford. What we did discover with the Southern Illinois case was on the evening prior to that, at around 8 o'clock that evening, there was footage taken by one Nancy Carpenter, along with her family, of the what appears to be a triangular or a pyramidal shape cluster of illuminations. And what it does, which is so unique, is it arcs. One of the objects actually arcs over, and it appears to be at the apex, the one illumination, having a light extend out as if directing it. The very same phenomena was recorded in the Tinley Park sightings. Multiple witnesses seen it. We did have it recorded. One gentleman who was he's a defense attorney and a very good amateur astronomer. He noticed it and he was so taken aback when he was explaining it to me, he was very energetic in explaining that he has never seen anything like that. It was breathtaking.
Wow. You know, when you see something like that, you never forget it. It's like it's just imprinted in your mind, and doesn't matter how many years later, you never forget it. And when you're talking to witnesses, if they seem like a credible witness, and they, you know, and if they are, their story never changes, right?
True. And here we have the video to support it. So we have evidentiary
Mm.
um, validation. And again, with mass sightings, you have the benefit, and this is why I like it so much, is you have a cross section of the demographic of the community. You have various vantage points. And luckily that these were taking place, the first being 1999, as I had mentioned, in Rockford, videos were taken. There were multiple different forms of video. We had many different types, as you recall. They were all fighting to be the premier form of camera and also recording. So we had everything from high 8 to beta, etc. So it was a little more complex when it came to analyzing and piecing things together. Same thing took place, of course, in Tinley Park. Yet when it came to Southern Illinois, we only had one photograph and one video. We had that police officer's photograph and then this video from Nancy Carpenter. So unfortunately, that was all we did get. The gentleman we both spoke to that one gentleman, um, was there. We have
Hmm.
something here. Went hunting last weekend with a police officer from Tinley Park who saw the UFO. Well, Will, make sure that guy gets in contact with me.
Right.
Yeah, I think I may know who it is, but
Yeah.
they could always email me at mufonsam1@gmail.com, by the way, and I would love to talk to him. I had a police officer come over from Tinley Park, and his sergeant said while he was directly underneath the object, other small objects were coming in and out of it. We knew this was one massive object by just running it back and forth, witness accounts, other video,
Mhm.
enhancements, etc. This was most peculiar. It was a massive isosceles object. There were other objects seen in the community too, regular disc orbs. On the second night, actually, it would have been the third or fourth night because we had other events take place. Starting in April, there were some sightings, but one police officer said no, his sergeant saw things coming in and out of it. Well, we have one set of
Mm.
footage that actually seems to show that, and it was a young gentleman was outside with some friends, and he was filming. We would be videotaping towards the older section of Tinley Park. And the funny thing about the older section observations, they were stating that in each corner was comprised three lights, three red illuminations or reddish illuminations, not just one. So it's funny that we have variations on the observation, but when you compile it all together, it does make sense.
It's interesting how, with these investigations that we do, all of the information doesn't come together at once. And it's never, you know, hardly ever from just one witness. It's so much better if there are multiple witnesses. That's why I wish more people would report. Why do you think? Well, it seems like maybe a little more are reporting now since it's not such a taboo subject. But when you know, for instance, a person is looking at a UFO and there's 10 other people there, why don't those other 10 people report as well?
I think ridicule and sarcasm is still persistent. This
Mhm.
is one other benefit when it comes to mass sightings. The stigma is gone when you say, well, my neighbor's seen it across the street. And even though you're a doctor or whatever, and we had doctors, actually quite a few lawyers, strangely enough, military personnel. We even had one air traffic controller was in a tower at a smaller airport further south and seen the objects along with other people in the tower at that time. The point being that they will make a statement, but they will not draw a conclusion. In other words, I seen the very
Hmm.
same thing, and that's pretty much where it ends. In all honesty, that's probably the better way we want to hear it, anyways. We don't need to have um, the decisive explanation of where it came, who drove it, what they had for breakfast. We just need we just need the information, just the information.
Right, right. And we also, we'll keep people's anonymous if they wish.
Absolutely.
No, nobody ever needs to know who they are that is reporting. It's just important to get that report in.
And how many times we encourage people when something is just borderline that it may be in their best interest not to go overly public or get your name out there for one reason or another. The case up in
Yeah.
Wisconsin that I had way up there that was ongoing for 2 years, it was a very sensitive case because there were some issues that family members had thought that these people had gone a little bit off their rocker and therefore actually contacted the sheriff and requested them to look in on them. And they were almost going to lose their daughter over the
Oh.
scenario. So the bottom line is better safe than sorry. And we could still pursue in a scientific manner this entire case of whatever it is, regardless how absurd,
Hmm.
without ever, ever having anything pertaining to some aspect of their identification being leaked out. So that is something that we are proficient at and we do very well. We've been doing for a long time.
Now, Sam, you got interested in the subject because you had an encounter in 1959. I
Yeah,
think our audience would like to hear about that.
sure. I was a little tot, I think, at the time. Well, I was born in 54, so 59, I was 5 years old. And my aunt and uncle would take me up to their new place that they had built, a cottage up in the area near the Fox Lake, Stakey Bay area. And they lived on a channel that connected the lake. Well, the purpose of us going up there was twofold. They had to check on the basement because there was or it really wasn't a basement. It was just an area, a lower level, maybe 3 feet taller, a crawl space. But water was getting in there somehow. And he had a sump pump. So we had to go up there, and I heard that they just had a new well that was drilled. Well, being a young, you know, child interested in finding all these things out, I had to find out if there really was a well there and there was water. So I started dropping rocks down there. That really ticked my aunt off. And as wonderful as she wasn't very good at hearing. She was hard of hearing and didn't have um, any sort of hearing aid. So she was yelling at me, and she said, "Sam, you go in the back and just stay and play in the backyard." So I went in the backyard, which was near, of course, the channel, and I started to try to skip some rocks, which I wasn't very good at, by the way. And I'm over there and I'm trying to skip rocks. And all of a sudden, an orb, a sphere, whatever you want to call it, a, a ball shaped object of light, which was self luminous, flew over my right shoulder, went across in front of me, went over into the neighbor's yard, over which was a fenced in area eventually. But I believe at that time it was a hedge of honeysuckles. Then it went up and back of a willow tree. And by the way, that willow tree is still there. It's got to be ancient.
Hmm.
And it flew up into the clouds. Well, when I looked at it, when this thing transpired, it went over me, I felt a whole electrical charge go through my body. And at
Oh.
first I thought, well, maybe I did something wrong and it's just, you know, the wrath of God getting back at me for dropping rocks down there.
Oh.
I didn't know if I don't know what type of category of sin dropping rocks down a well was, being a little Catholic boy, but I'm sure I was getting punished for something. Either way, when I looked down, my aunt was in front of me and she was yelling at me. And I'm like, what's wrong? She goes, where have you been? I go, I've been standing right here. And then I looked around. Everything was dark, as if hours had gone by.
Oh
And she
boy.
said that she was looking for me for I forgot exactly how long. And she said, I was back here. I looked in the spot. You weren't there. Where were you at? And I go, here. And that was it. And she stormed off and we jumped in the car. I got in the back seat. I didn't say a peep all the way home. When I got to the house, my mother answered the door. I walked in, took my jacket, threw it on the stairs that goes to the second level. And my mom goes, aren't you going to watch Dennis the Menace? This was the first season of Dennis the Menace, and I believe it went on at 8 o'clock. So it'd be 7 o'clock Central. And I said, no, I was so frightened. I had no idea what transpired. So I went right into bed, covered my head up. And to tell you the truth, I don't know what transpired after that. But um, years later and during that period of time, I had experiences with them and encounters that really frightened the heck out of me as a little child. And I started to have those experiences. And I recall only two instances, actually three. The last one was in the 80s, where the entity was on my chest looking at me. And it reminded me of, do you remember the toys? I don't know if you recall the toys called cooties.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I
Okay.
remember those.
Well, it reminded me of a cootie with the big black eyes, the big head, whimsical arms, almost like a marionette. The motion was jerky. And the first thing I recall is talking to it telepathically and asking it its name, of all things to ask. And so, what
Right.
the hell are you doing here? And get off my chest. I ask what its name is. And I recall it giving me a name that was a hard consonant. So it was like an R or whatever. And it could have been more in line of, say, for instance, a group instead of a individual. And this had happened far too frequently where it really frightened me. I recall the feeling of as if you were going through, let's say, for instance, a plastered wall. It had a certain feeling. Going over the grass, freshly cut grass and dew on it. These are things I recall. Those are probably the two most or three most significant thing during those period of time. And this was a frequent occurrence. So it wasn't weekly or whatever, but it could have been probably every so many months. So one day I eventually had the nerve to ask my mom what they were. I said, whatever its name was, came last night again. And what is it or who are they? And she was washing the dishes and turned around, looked at me. She goes, it's your imaginary friend. And she said it just like a
Oh.
mom would.
Uh-huh.
And so I went outside and I told my friends that my imaginary friend came last night and I don't know what transpired, something was communicating. And they said, well, and they started laughing at me. I go, why are you doing that? And they go, that's because you're crazy. You're dreaming this stuff up. I was really offended and very upset at my mother um,
Mhm.
because there was nothing imaginary about the whole incident. And actually, I wish it was. But the
Yeah.
last experience I had was in 1980 and very peculiar. We were married, Julie and I, at that point, and we had a house, and the room became self illuminated. And I don't know why. I was experiencing a lot of pain in places you don't want to experience a lot of pain. And I had to go to the bathroom. I got up and I opened my eyes, and the entire room was self illuminated. There wasn't one light on, nothing, no lights coming in from any source, but the whole room was lit up. I went into the bathroom and my pupils were dilated so big. It was like it was very peculiar. I got back out and I was so tired, and I said, and this is the honest to God truth. I says, I don't care what you do to me. You could even cut my head off. Just let me go to sleep and leave me alone. Next morning we wake up. Every battery in the house was dead, including the two batteries in the car.
Oh,
After discovering that, my neighbor came over and was pounding on the door. I went to the door and I asked him, what seems to be the problem, Bob? And he goes, you keep your UFO friends away from my house.
oh,
And I followed him out as he turns towards the to go to his front door, and I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And I had to corner him, and he says, "Do you know what happened last night?" And I didn't want to tell him what happened to me.
right.
And he says, "Last night, the conduit, the aluminum conduit that the electricity comes in, the main power comes in, burst into flames. They had a huge electrical fire."
Oh
And
no.
I think there was more to it. I think he's seen something because, first of all, he had no idea I had an interest in the subject. His children didn't know that I had an interest in the subject, nor did they know I had encounters with these things. And this was probably 1980 or 81, about 81, I would say.
Uh,
And that was the last time I had any issues with them.
oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That's pretty wild because he's telling you, you tell your UFO friends to stay away. So I'm just picturing him seeing a UFO over your house.
I have a feeling he saw something.
Yeah.
And we had activity in the area. In fact, it was June the 6th of 2000 that we had a sighting of a triangular craft that was seen in Lamont that traversed over our area. And we had crop glyphs in the field, crop circles, I call them glyphs. Beautiful display of the genuine articles. And it just so happened it proceeded to Frankfurt, which would have been southwest of me. And some kids in the area, or gentlemen in the area, were out drinking that night. And the one that was more sober and driving, he says, "Look at the size of that spaceship." And then they start making fun of him, thinking that he said that it was just a ship. He saw it. The next morning, Julie went to the grocery store. There was only one little store in the area. It was more rural at that time. And she said, "You better get up. We have crop circles out there in the field." Well, I was exhausted because the night before, my cat must have seen all this insanity and was jumping up on uh, the bed trying to get my attention to go and look outside. He was
Mm.
scaring the heck out of me. And he knew something was going on. And here I get a phone call. I reach over, grab the phone. It's a friend of mine. He says, "Get your butt out of bed. We got crop circles down the street." So he comes over. We drive off. We go down there. And oh, it was absolutely gorgeous. Inner lane, woven together underneath each other, interlocking, bent nodes. No, nothing broke. And in the
Uh-huh.
middle of one, actually about three of them, there was this tuft of wheat. And right in the center of each one, there was one little stem, and it was just bent. Such beautiful, it was beautiful. And he noticed that there were two trucks out there, two large vans that had the name of, he said it was a pizza company. And then he wrote down the phone number and checked it, and there wasn't such a company.
No.
So, yeah, it was very peculiar. And that property, um, those areas where the glyphs were actually at, it was hard panned. Now, hard pan, for those people that don't know the term, that's where you have it's so dehydrated that the the clay in that area is like pottery. Nothing
Mhm.
grows. The water just runs right off.
Mm.
I took some samples. This was before I joined, or actually, I had just joined MUFON, and I wanted to get some aerial views, but we never had anybody get back to us. The gentleman who had gotten me on board wasn't available, and we were just collecting samples. And my cat ate the dang samples.
What? Oh no.
Yeah, yeah. I was figuring I was going to go to his litter box and see it glowing or something, but
Oh,
he ate the darn
but
sample.
he lived through it.
He lived through it.
He
He
lived.
died of
Okay.
cancer, strangely enough.
Oh.
So I don't know, but we do have photos somewhere. It was an excellent case, and out here, well, in Illinois, it seems like within the first 2 weeks of June, when the water table's just about right, that's just about when you're going to get anything resembling crop glyphs, and
Mhm.
it's been that way. We've had a few more, but not that many.
Okay. Well, on that note, we're going to take a short break, and we'll be back in just a couple of minutes. And we're back. You're listening to MUFON Midwest, and my guest today is Sam Maranto. He is from Chicago, Illinois, and he's the state director for Illinois and also the regional director for the Great Lakes region. How is that going, Sam, being regional director?
Well, we're trying to get things coordinated for some events. And what we want to do is have an event day, general event day, where each state will give a 15-minute presentation on a case. And but prior to that, invite their members and have their members invite new friends or friends that may have an interest and associates. And what I'm looking to do is that prior to it, at least have them RSVP with about how many people they expect to have, so this way we could accommodate the presentation. The other thing I'd like to have is a holiday party. We used to do Zoom holiday parties with trivia, and we usually pick a theme meal that everybody, brings some sort of food and they eat their food, and we have a themed drink. Doesn't have to be alcoholic, though it could be. In other words, we just have a good time. So
Oh,
in the event we're going to do that, I think Central has to be a part of it since we're so close anyways. and we'll have a good time.
Well, we will absolutely chime in on that with you. Yes, you sold me. Just give me the date and time, and I'll spread the word.
Oh, I know
That's it.
you're good for that, right?
Hey, you know that's the thing. You do have to have fun with this subject sometimes. See, UFOs can get pretty serious, and I believe in lightening it up once in a while.
True. And on that note, I tell you, we've had so many scenarios. The case up in Wisconsin was probably one of the more frightening cases. And I remember at that time working on that case, in addition to a case in Arizona. These were the case from up north was from a source in British Columbia. They asked me to investigate it. And then the one in Arizona was New Fork. So it just so happens they were seeing similar things around in and about the same time. And one gentleman was very good at explaining stuff scientifically. He was a government contractor and a scientific background. The other gentleman, on the other hand, was just an average Joe, and I couldn't understand what the heck he was talking about. But when I had both of them on the line, between the two of them, it would make sense. In one instance, they were talking about some of the more frightening aspects of the phenomena having to do with some, again, some theories or some stories being talked about how some of these entities absorb nutritions, how they actually get their nutritions. One person was talking about, well, they were seen in Vietnam taking corpses and making soup or something along that line, or putting them in something and bathing or putting their arms in there. I go, yeah, turning you into soup or kidding around. At the same time, very frightened. And the one gentleman stated, I've been hearing something calling my name, in addition to all this other phenomena that's been going around him. It's hours worth of information to convey. And the gentleman in the in Wisconsin got so frightened by the conversation. He goes, Sam, I was outside and I swear I heard somebody call my name. I was so I was so frightened. I ran in a house and he had sliding doors. He slid the sliding door on his head. He squished his ears. And I go, you know what? I've done the same thing. When you're in a hurry, you just do that. So we bust
Yikes.
up laughing. But it was such a frightening when you hear all these different things, and you could get scared out of your wits besides just having the encounters, but some of the other aspects that are so far reaching yet unnerving, and this is where the crossover material, and you and I are well aware of all that, goes into other elements of phenomenology that most people don't want to venture into, yet do exist, and
Right.
yet it's so.
It seems that if a person is an experiencer, they're
Yes.
not just an experiencer of one phenomena, it's
No.
multiple things, right?
Yes. As you and I know, sometimes when you have these experiences, it almost unleashes some aspect of other abilities or removes gates, say for extrasensory perception, telekinesis, uh, cognitive, precognitive abilities, etc. And sometimes that isn't so much as a blessing at times, and it can be pretty
Yeah.
frightening.
How many of your cases have involved actual sightings of non human entities?
Funny you mentioned that. Um, I would think today, more so than ever, we're getting more cases. I separate the cases. Those cases I get because I get them from various because I'm an investigative researcher, and you know, various agencies or whomever, they contact me. Um, CUFOS, New Fork.
Hmm.
Not as much as anymore. Basically, more so it would be in conjunction with, let's say, for instance, media work, um, um, stuff like that. But there's enough um, information coming in just from the CMS to show that I would say an easily one third of the reports that are coming in somehow have a connection to um, something that would be considered an encounter with beings. I don't know. It's probably a little bit less. Maybe it's 5/8. But the thing is, it's substantially more, I think, than it was before. I would get calls on those. Those would be the calls, not the CMS reports or the emails. Those would be the calls that I would get before. I still get them. I would say I get one a month, or if somebody calls in, I just tell them, just go to CMS. Prior to that, they wouldn't dare do it. And I would get one a week. Now, the funny thing is, as far as reports, I would get it on average 11 calls a day coming in directly to me and pertaining to a wide range of things pertaining to UFOs, encounters, etc. But the ratio, I would say back then, was less of encounters with entities, more so of just sightings. Or in some instances, um, very close encounters with hardware, the nuts and bolt type scenario, or some other related phenomena. But I'm curious, how is it in Missouri? Would you say?
I'd say we're getting more sightings of entities in the past few years
Yes,
compared to prior. So
yes.
I think we're experiencing the same thing you are. Uh, and I'm not sure what I'm not sure what the reason would be other than I do have a theory about that. Uh, it seems that people are becoming more aware and using their sixth sense more than they used to. A higher vibration, higher vibratory rate. And so maybe that is one of the explanations why they can see these entities, which, my idea is that they are interdimensional. What do you think about that?
The interdimensionality is something I came into accepting as a much stronger than a possibility, but, another one of the likely scenarios of what we're dealing with. The other thing is something that can manipulate the um, the appearance, almost like creating a hologram, but
Mm,
more convincing or able to actually manifest some other aspect to it that would be, say, quasi materialistic, where you could see it and you could almost sensorily experience certain things like taste, touch, or whatever with the phenomena, though it may not be totally manifest as a as something material. It's quasi, like something an in between. Now, how
mhm,
much of that is actual, genuine, or how much of that is just a matter of tapping into your brain at the same time and
mhm,
controlling it? And you know darn well they're capable, or at least some of these entities are capable of doing that. But when it comes down to, like, it has always been, it's for me, the explanation is quite simple. We're dealing with a multiplicity of phenomena, not a thing, but many different things. And there are things that are so far reaching that we can't even contemplate what it is, because more so, we first have to come to a better grips or better understanding, I should say, as to what we are, who we are, and why we are. And that's what I think the phenomena centers. When it all boils down to it, it centers around that.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. We do have a question. Did you ever come to a conclusion on the St. Clair 2000 mass sighting?
Oh, yes, it's not a blimp or a B-2. And the I finally had a witness come forward who was the officer at the desk officer that night, and gave an gave his personal experience, seeing it, talking to the tower, and knowing for a fact that many officers did see it, but they didn't put it into the logbook. Okay, for
Mm,
fear of wondering what they would have to deal with thereafter. But I did get that. And the other thing is, there are so many witnesses on that case. The blimp idea, which I heard, doggone it, I forget the gentleman who said that. It was really too far out there to even take into consideration.
mm,
And the other thing is, now that we knew that we had a chance to examine the Nancy Carpenter uh, footage. I was supposed to actually receive a copy of it, never did. And the Nancy Carpenter footage uh, was was given to the History Channel, and they were supposed to give it to me because I was a consultant for the end of the first season and the second season, full season. I was in, I think I worked on 5 episodes there and into, but I never got a copy of it. So no, it wasn't a blimp. We know that definitively. And there were multiple objects, one being a rectangular object looking like a house. And that's what Noel saw um, at his putt putt golf course
mhm,
and reported in Highland. And then we had 2 cases up here right before that in Plainfield, Illinois. And the gentleman described exactly what was seen by another witness that I had, who had seen the object earlier in the vicinity. Um, and that was on the 2nd of January. And he was with his stepfather, who was retired Air Force intelligence and had just been at Scott's Air Force Base at a commissary. And they were driving home late at night, going back to Missouri. Very good drawing, and that is a MUFON case. So one of these days I'll have to have that on and show some of the images from that and Tinley
yeah.
Park. I was reluctant to show Tinley Park um, information because that currently is being used for a broadcast, a show in that's going to be seen. It's called what is it? UFO. I forget the name of it. It's British. It's a Canadian company, and I was in the. They goofed up. I was supposed to be in 2 episodes, but I was in the O'Hare one. So, but it's a Canadian show. Something
Okay.
I don't
I
know.
do have some photos that you sent me that we
Yeah. So
probably ought to
pull those
get up
up.
here and so you can explain what they are.
Okay, this was
Um,
the sketch that was made, and this is by Carol uh, Winald, and this was what you would have seen in the Tribune, and it was also shown on television on a few shows prior to the big announcement in the newspaper, actually. And
mhm,
this was what most people had seen. It looked like a football for the most part, a fat disc. And let's see, the next one you have, that's a drawing, but we have a photograph. Now, multiple photographs were submitted to NARCAB. And to just get the story straight, um, Peter Davenport was receiving reports. In fact, he received 3 reports, 3 call-ins from employees who were what they referred to as ramp rats. They were loading up the plane that was going to be pushed back to go out to Carolina, North Carolina. This was a photo that was taken and seemed to be more consistent with the object that was seen. You see a lot of haze there because there was overcast, and the overcast was at about a good 1,900 feet, as you can see here on the right. The object was about say 400 feet below that. And they were saying, the explanation was it was a lenticular cloud. A lenticular cloud forms on the leeward side of, say, for instance, mountains or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to have a strong wind. Now, rarely, but there are those instances where we do get one, where you get a crosswind, and at various altitudes, and you have it. You can make one out here, but they're rare. And this was below it, clearly below it. My first witness who seen the object with her friend, who was a doctor from Bulgaria, was driving down Mannheim Road, going to the international concourse to pick up their friend, who was an American Airlines pilot. He was an international pilot. And she said, this is the picture that depicts closest to anything what they saw. Now, unfortunately, we can't take it for anything more than a illustration, because we didn't have a chain of custody when it came to the photograph, and you know how that goes. But it is interesting, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more. So she got out, her and her friend got out at the concourse and noticed other people independently, lots of people independently, not just observing it, but filming it and taking photographs. They took their reading glasses and tilted them so they get a better view. And then in an instance, this object shot through the sky. And it wasn't straight up, it was a little slight angle. And when it did so, it left a gaping hole in the sky all the way through to the perfectly clear sky above it, which would be 6,000 feet above that location,
Mm-hmm.
which is pretty interesting. Now, here is the tower. And when Sue, who was a manager, called Dave, I believe was the gentleman up there, and asked him if he was able to see anything. He was an air traffic controller and manager, and he wasn't able to see it. Well, Dr. Rodiger, a good friend of mine who worked on this also, um, he noted that the overhang, he figured out, and the angle of where they were at, they would not have been able to see it. They would have only have been able to see it if they were outside of that confined area.
Oh, right.
Now, I had another case that came in. It was the next year. That was 2006. 2007 was really when it broke loose as far as people learning about it. This was some months afterwards, obviously, a year and some months. A gentleman was walking out on his patio to have a cigarette in Naperville, and we had this plow cloud, or this wall of cloud, come in. And as it was moving in, as you could see, it's actually further out in the distance, quite some distance. And where that yellow circle is, there's this object there. And he says he's there and he's watching this thing fly in and out and around this whole thing, the whole cloud. And he called his neighbor out. And the both of them are standing out there watching it. And as it got closer, he was able to discern the shape of it. And here's the image of, on the next picture, of a blow up of it. And as you could see, it looks like a plump disc. And as you can see in back of it, that dark area is displacement. It is going through the clouds, displacing the humidity. And that's what it looks like when you have that much displacement. Now here we have a photo I clipped out of that other image from O'Hare, and I tried to see if there was some similarity. This is more so looking edgewise, where that one is more of a little bit of an angle. But there are some characteristics that I think they shared. So what I did is I made a transparency, and on the next image, I did a layover. And I'll be doggone if it doesn't seem to
Yeah.
have some sort of similarities.
Uh-huh. Looks like a disc.
Yep, a nice plump disc.
Wow.
And both doing the displacement. One in back of it, one as it shot through the clouds to leaving a gaping hole, which they thought was, of course, a hole punch cloud. Hole punch clouds, I've actually seen one form. They're beautiful. If you have enough humidity, if you have enough, if let's say the ceiling of the cloud, or the top of the cloud, not the base, is high enough where it's cold enough, and an area of it will freeze, then you will have those ice particles that will be ever heavier fall down and actually cause a pluming effect and punch. It's usually circular, and it'll punch through, and it's absolutely gorgeous. It's like feathered and plumed, like looking at a rain, coming down at a distance, but even more dramatic. It's beautiful. I seen one actually appear on Route 88 when I was driving. No, it was Route 55, and at the intersection where 88 goes, or 355 goes over, and it was northeast, and it was appearing right then and there. Absolutely gorgeous. And of course, I didn't have a darn video to record the stupid thing, so this way I could say, no, this is what that looks like, versus what these people were saying. The object was below it, shot through it, not the other way around.
Amazing stuff, Sam. You've seen so much in your years with MUFON and on your own and for other organizations. I'm sure we could probably talk for about 10 hours straight here without stopping. But what's next for you? Do you have any shows coming up? Any events?
Speaking engagements, strangely enough, I was asked to speak at the 50th anniversary of Night of the Living Dead. It's like some horror event of all absurd things, right?
Whoa.
They wanted someone to speak about UFOs, and of course, some of the people putting it together knew me. One gentleman's a friend, so I'll be there. And then, of course, Bill and Jackie are going to be there. Dr. Bill.
Oh yes,
he'll be
the
there.
Mothman.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so we haven't seen each other since April, and we have another event up in Wisconsin. That's going to be in May. I have some other local speaking events. As far as anything media-wise, that one thing I did for a Canadian broadcast company. Doggone, I forget the name of it. Fairpoint Film was the name of the producers. But I'm working on a few other things. Hopefully, I have 4 books in the work, and sure need to finish one of them. But a lot of what I'm trying to do right now has to do with trying to cross the borders and trying to build bridges with people who have such deep beliefs that they won't accept the possibility that we are not alone.
Well, we're making a little bit of progress with that. So good luck. Good luck with that.
Well, thank you.
And thank you so much for being on the program with me tonight. I really appreciate it. I know we're going to be reaching more people because this will be available, of course, to watch anytime. And just check out the Central Region MUFON channel on YouTube. We've got a lot of videos up right now of not only these shows, but also presentations going back a couple of years. And we're constantly putting some new ones up. And open to the public, of course. Anybody can watch them anytime. Thank you so much, Sam, and we will be in touch.
Thank you.